I'm going to do a couple quick Mauler tests showing some of the interesting facets of a Mauler. I'm going to start with the back snare and fist wraps to see if it breaks on damage. I believe earlier in the post counter I said I believe it did break on damage, but I think I might be wrong, so I'll test it real fast here. So you see, hit the back snare. So the shaman snared here. I'll swing with an anytime swing. It landed. It appears that the snare does not break on damage, as I'm still snared while the Mauler is beating on me. So, according to this test, the back snare from the Mauler does not break on damage, so it is similar to pin. What I do know for sure is you can use it on a snare target. I'll show you that in 1 second. But quickly before we do that, I'm going to test the focus snare, which is a 700 range, as you can see down here. I'll pull it up. It's this spell. It's similar to the Vampire focus snare. It's about 700 range. It's a focus. Let me get a little power real fast from beating on the shaman, just so I can have more power to keep this up longer. Okay. So let's cast it on the shaman, and we'll see if it breaks when I lose view of it. I think it might break when I get out of view, but I'm not 100% sure. I do know if you get out of range, the focus breaks. So let's just test it out. So here we go, casting it. As you can see here, the spell continuously stays on the shaman. You can see it casting on the shaman. I'll show you. It's a massive snare, especially at high levels. So you can essentially keep this on a target forever until it fades. If you get a couple of resists in a row, then it'll drop, I think, because the duration will run out, then it'll give you immunity. But as long as there's not too many resists in a row, or if you don't have debt and stoicism, I believe you can keep it on for a very long period of time. That being said, I'm going to see if the snare stops once I lose view. I'm still in range, but I am out of view. It would appear that, yes, it does remain on, so you can use this without being in view of your target. And if you can see, I'm trying to cast, and it's a permanent interrupt as long as it's on you. You can't cast, see? It's like constantly pulsing and interrupting on you. So what I like to do is say I'm trying to kill a Kabbalist and there's a friar within 700 range of me. What I'll do is I'll cast a spell on the friar while I'm being on the cab, especially if I can use my Unbreakable Root on the cab, keep him in place, and I can keep the friar essentially rooted. It's like 90% snare, so it's pretty massive. See, it just broke there. Might run out of power. Maybe it has a cap number of pulses, but I mean, it stayed on for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. But if I can keep the friar snared with that and continuously interrupted, I can kill a cab pretty quickly while locking down the heals. Or you can interrupt through BG with that for a good period of time. You can interrupt, like I said, similar to the friar. If I wanted to interrupt a Sork while I'm being on a cab, I can cast a snare on the Sork while I melee the cab. So it's a really useful ability. It does give root immunity, as you can see here. But what I do want to show you is the back snare. So as you can see here, the shaman is root immune. I can still snare it. And that's one of the big things about the Mauler is you can snare through root immunity, which is pretty exciting. It's very similar to Pen, which also snares through root immunity. And as tested before, see, snare, and I'll just do some anytime swings. The snare remains, so it's unbreakable, the snare. So it's a very cool ability, a very cool thing that Maulers do get. Now let's see. Okay, what I also wanted to show you was the Unbreakable Root. But first, I'm going to show you the P-Bay root, which is breakable. It's a 5-minute reuse timer. Pull it up right here. Let me get a little more power on being on my shaman. Just quickly to explain how I'm getting so much power while I'm being on my shaman. Maulers get a buff. It's right here. It's the what the delve says is it blocks 28 damage and returns 28% to the caster as power. It's a massive damage shield essentially. What it does is it literally blocks 28% of whatever incoming damage you have, and then it'll send, instead of damaging you, it'll kind of take that off the top of your damage and then send the power to me. So if I'm in a group and I can tell my Zerker's about to take damage, I put that on him. The Zerker takes a lot less damage, 28% less damage, and I gain a lot of power off of that. So it's very useful for getting power. I'll show you quickly again how much power you can get. So you just watch my power skyrocket. And the Shaman without that buff would be getting hit a lot harder. As you can see in the damage logs, it's taking 65 damage off of a nearly 200 damage hit. So it's a pretty big difference. Anyway, I'll show you the breakable P-Bay root. You cannot cast this on someone that's root immune, so you have to be careful with that. But the cool thing about this is it does not give root immunity. So I'll show you here, I'll cast it. So the Shaman's rooted, it's just like a normal root. It breaks on damage. It lasts quite a long time, it lasts over a minute with the red root. So I'm going to break it really fast with my Mauler. I'll put my Shaman on auto run. So it breaks like any other root right here, okay? The good thing is, you see up here, there's no root immunity. So I can immediately either have a Shaman root it, or I can even use my snare, although it just resisted. Okay, you see I just rooted myself, and now I can use this, which gives root immunity. It's essentially a root, but you can root out a target for a very long time with a Mauler and maybe a Shaman or healer or something. So now we're doing the whole pulse root, and I'll break this since it is breakable. But you can see it continuously casts on me, even though it's not doing anything since I'm immune, but I'm still unable to cast. You see, it's still an interrupt that constantly stays on me. So it's a great interrupt even if your target is immune. For some reason I'm healing through it there. Anyway, that's, like I said earlier, it's a great interrupt. Okay, but now, as you can see here, we have root immunity. Let me get a little power real fast, sorry. We have root immunity, so I wouldn't be able to use my normal root, and a Shaman or a healer or a Rune Master or whatever couldn't root my target since it's root immune. But what I can do is I can unbreakable root, as you can see here. And even though I have root immunity right here, I'm still rooted. So this is a great root. You can use this whenever, even if they're root immune. It's a very cool thing about Mauler. And you can just beat on the Shaman without breaking the root. You see, I'm trying to run away here, but the unbreakable root is just keeping me in place. And once this finally fades, it doesn't give me root immunity at all, either. Takes quite a while. I'll go ahead and purge it so you can see that it doesn't give root immunity. See, right here, no root immunity. So I can immediately have someone root on top of it, or I could root with my P-Bay root if it was up, or I could just use my snare, like this. So it's a very, very powerful ability. I'm going to break my root. An interesting tip, what I like to do, if you're in a group and if you're pulling, say you're in a mid-hybrid group and you're pulling like maybe an Alp hybrid group. The Alp group has a lot of pressure, and a lot of that pressure comes from the Thurg. And what a lot of people like to do is to root out the Thurg to create space. Now, one cool thing about Maulers is you can go in there and you can use your P-Bay root on the Thurg, run past it, just root it. So he's rooted out at that point for about a minute. He could purge it, or he could just sit it out. And then once he comes out of that, he has no root immunity at all. So what you could do at that point is either one, have a Shaman or healer root them, or you can fly back in with the Mauler and use the unbreakable root and root him out for another minute, and he could purge or sit that out. And then after that happens, so he sits out 2 roots, he still doesn't have immunity, so then the Shaman could root him on top of that. What's probably better is to root him out with the P-Bay root, and then have a Shaman root him out with a normal root. And then after that, root him out with a, after he does have normal immunity, root him out with the unbreakable root, because it doesn't even share the same immunity timer. So it's just an interesting little tip. And then with Shamans, you can just Ichor them and essentially root them out 4 times in a row. So the power of the Mauler is pretty cool there. One more thing is the pulsing snare. Cast this here. It's this ability. It just pulses around you. It's a 50% snare at the highest level. And it breaks on damage, but it doesn't give any sort of immunity. And you can see here once it fades, there's no immunity. But it does break on damage, as you can see. So, but it's a pretty useful ability for keeping people close to you. Yeah, that's my impromptu video about the Mauler root and snares. So maybe you'll learn something from that. And thanks for watching.